Alright, so today I will be doing a brief demonstration of the 5 major types of coin lines, those being coin first or prepay, semi-dial tone first, dial tone first, postpay, and semi-postpay. And for my testing setup here, since I do not actually have a network-controlled payphone, or any payphone for that at all for that matter here, I'm going to be using this phone here, which is on the same line as that phone for my testing, and I've got a butt set on the line as well, and I've just connected these speakers to it, so I get more volume control than the set itself offers. And in lieu of depositing coins, since I don't have a payphone with a totalizer, I'm just going to use this red box here, which is part of this. Well, we've got a blue box, a silver box, and then a red box. And so those are the functions here that I'll be using today. And since the signaling is all in band, of course, it works just fine. Now, with a real coin line, the initial deposit would not typically have anything to do with in-band signaling, since that was generally a ground test or ground detection of some kind. But in practice, it works basically the same way. The user wouldn't really notice any difference. So for a demonstration line, it works perfectly fine. So the first one that I'm going to be doing here is the coin first line. And there's different demo lines that are set up for the different types of lines. So different numbers on PhreakNet that will basically give you a dial tone or connect you through to a demo line. Not necessarily a dial tone immediately, as in the case of the coin first line, in fact. So I'll just use this phone for dialing, since I don't feel like rotary dialing right now. Okay, and let me turn the butt side into monitor mode. Okay, I want to be careful not to introduce feedback, because that would not be good. Okay. So now I can hear what's going on in this handset here, and you can hear what's going on in the speakers here. I guess actually you can hear me through the speakers. But right now you just hear the battery noise that you would hear if you picked up a coin first phone and you hadn't yet deposited a coin. So let me go ahead and deposit a coin now. The initial deposit is 10 cents. Let me just couple that. That should be good enough. Okay, so we've made the initial deposit, and I can now dial a number. I'll go ahead and let's see.
Hello, you have correctly dialed the long-distance test number. I'm John Davis of the telephone company, and you're hearing me on a recording. You have seen how easy it is to dial your long-distance call, and I hope you will...
Okay, so that was a coin first line, which was very common in the Bell system, especially prior to the 1970s. Not typically used in independent areas, but In the Bell system, it is fairly common. Virtually all 3-slot payphones were coin first, although there were some that were dial tone first, and of course Postpay as well. So coin first, no dial tone until you deposit the coin, which means even for free calls you still have to deposit a coin and then get it back returned when you make the free call. And if it's out of order, then you might not necessarily know that. Although, as you just heard, when you pick up the phone, you do tend to hear some battery noise on the line from the CO. So if the line were truly dead, that might also be a giveaway that, in fact, it's not working. But I can't personally say how easy that would have been to tell. Now, the next kind of line that I'm going to demonstrate is dial tone first, sometimes called dial tone first prepay. And with dial tone first, you can make free calls without depositing a coin. You get dial tone right away. But if you make a call that requires any kind of deposit, free or not free, either a local call or a long distance, then if you don't deposit a coin before dialing, or at least by the end of dialing, depending on the system, then your call will be routed to an intercept telling you that you need to deposit coins before dialing. And if we go ahead and we make a call now without depositing coins,
the call you have made requires a 10-cent deposit. Please hold on, wait for dial tone, deposit 10 cents, and dial your call again.
okay, and we get another dial tone. In some areas, it would tell you to hang up and then dial again. Some places, it would say hold on a moment and wait for dial tone. But same basic idea. Try again and deposit your coins before dialing. So that's what we'll do now. If I can get a couple right.
Please hang up, and if you'd like
Well,
to call, try it again.
and not have it time out to permanent signal, I guess. Okay, there we go. So I'll go ahead and deposit my 10 cents. Okay, and now if we dial, and now the call just goes through.
Hello.
Now, of course, this particular call does not soup, as it is a test number, so coins will be returned at the end of the call.
Recording. You have seen how easy it is to dial your long-distance calls, and I hope you will continue to dial out-of-town calls.
Okay, now the next type of line I'm going to demonstrate is the semi-dial tone first. And this is probably the least well-known of the 5 major types of coin lines. I don't believe it was used in the Bell system at all, but was more common in AE and GE areas. And the way that semi-dial tone first works is it's sort of a hybrid of coin first and dial tone first. You get a dial tone right away, like with dial tone first, but you can't dial anything until you deposit a coin, even free calls. So in that sense, it's like coin first. So I'm going to go ahead and get that here. And I'll turn on the monitor. Okay, so we have dial tone, but if we try to dial, you can't dial until you make the deposit. So, let me try that again. I think it's going, okay, went to permanent signal there. Okay. It's hard to keep this coupled against the headset properly. Okay, so now we can dial. So, in contrast to dial tone first, there is no ground test at the end of dialing like with dial tone first, because if you've dialed a number, you've obviously deposited coins. So from the point of actually starting to dial the number, it's effectively like coin first. But when you pick up the phone, it sounds like it's dial tone first. Okay, now the last two types of lines are postpay and semi-postpay, and essentially postpay was used in the Bell system, semi-postpay was used outside the Bell system by independents, and the equipment involved was actually different. So postpay, in fact, didn't even have a ground wire, but it was different in that there was really no coin control at all. Any coins deposited with either postpay or semi-postpay go straight into the coin vault. So it's actually the simplest, these are the simplest types of coin lines in coin control. And in fact, really there's no difference in terms of, you can, since you don't need any coin control, there's really not much of a difference in terms of the type of demo that we're doing here in an actual coin line. So I'm going to go ahead and get that up here. I should mention that the way that postpay works is that you just make your call normally without doing anything, and then on local calls, when the called party answers with postpay, then a second dial tone comes onto the line, and then you make your deposit. And otherwise it's going to basically prevent you from talking is the idea. So, okay, so we got dial tone. And no deposits at this point, because anything you deposit would just go straight into the coin vault, which was a mistake that people did make sometimes. And I'm going to dial this phone here because I actually want to call something that will answer, so not a test line. Well, we can actually call a test line just to see that in action. This is calling a test line that doesn't supervise. And the call just goes through. So on calls like these, you don't even need to have any coins to use the phone, even to deposit them and get them back later. So very, very simple mode of operation. Now, this next call, I'm going to actually call that phone there so we can answer it and see what happens then. Okay, so now we have a postpay dial tone, or a postpay line, I should say, and then let me call that phone. Okay, so it's ringing here, and as soon as I answer, watch what happens. Okay, so now a second dial tone has come onto the line. And so the two parties can't really talk at this point until the deposit is now made. Okay, so now the deposit has been made and the two parties can talk. And of course, since this is a local call, we can talk as long as we want. And it's worth noting that for long distance calls, this wouldn't happen. This is only for local calls. So long distance calls would either be handled by an operator, your record board, TSPS. I don't think Postpay was ever used with automated coin toll systems, since fundamentally that relies on Prepay. So that was likely another reason for why they kind of were phased out, and pretty much everything now is based on dial tone first concepts, even with coconuts. Now the last type of line is semi-postpay, and semi-postpay was used in Independence, very common there. And the difference between postpay and semi-postpay in terms of how it would operate is that when the called party answered, instead of a loud tone coming onto the line to impede the conversation, the caller would then be muted. This was actually done at the phone via polarity reversal, and then depositing the coin would undo that and then allow the called party or the caller to speak. There is an interesting side effect of this, is that if you call a number that supervises, it can supervise, and if you don't need to say anything, or if you don't want to say anything, then you never have to deposit any coins at all. So that would include on calls where something like time and temperature or the weather, you're only listening in that case. Okay, so now if we go ahead and make a call using semi-postpay, I'm going to first call a time and temperature number, which does supervise, but you'll notice that the call just goes through, it answers, and we can hear the rest of the call. As long as we don't need to say anything, we don't need to deposit any coins.
At the tone, the time will be 1, 2, and 20 seconds. Fahrenheit 2 Celsius. At the tone, the time will be 1, 2, and 40 seconds.
So that was perfectly legitimate with semi-postpay. You could call something like that, and the call is free. So it seems kind of weird by modern standards, but that's actually how it works. Now, if you want to talk to somebody, that's a different matter. So I'll demonstrate that now. Hello? Testing. So, the called party can talk, and I can try to talk here, but the called party can't hear anything, which, I guess I can demonstrate that by putting on speakerphone here. Testing, testing. Nope, you can't hear me. So, if I wanted to talk, then I have to make the deposit. Testing. So after the deposit, then you can talk. And there you have it. Those are the 5 types of coin lines.